the decision they made without noticing it. Nothing dramatic happened. No announcement. No clear moment of choice. Careers often change through deliberate decisions. Promotions accepted. Roles declined. Risks taken visibly. But just as often, they change through decisions made quietly without awareness. Choices disguised as habits. Patterns repeated until they become direction. To understand how this unnoticed decision reshaped everything, we need to look at how it formed. Day by day, task by task, nothing felt intentional. They simply kept choosing what felt easiest in the moment, what avoided conflict, what preserved comfort. Emails answered immediately. Requests accepted automatically. Boundaries postponed for later. Each choice felt harmless, temporary, something they would adjust once things slowed down. But things never slowed down. The pattern solidified quietly. Availability became expectation. Flexibility became obligation. And over time, the role expanded in one direction only, toward constant responsiveness. Not because anyone demanded it explicitly, but because it was never resisted. They didn't decide to become indispensable. They drifted into it. The work grew reactive. Priorities shifted daily. Planning shrank. Depth disappeared. Everything became urgent, and nothing felt meaningful. Yet stepping back felt impossible. The system now depended on the behavior they had normalized. The realization came late. They weren't stuck because of a bad decision. They were stuck because of a decision they never noticed making. And once they saw that clearly, the story stopped being about workload or balance. It became about authorship. Because when you don't choose your patterns consciously, they choose your future for you. And recognizing that truth is uncomfortable, because it means that change ahead can't be blamed on circumstance. It has to be claimed. That realization marked the beginning of a confrontation far more difficult than any external challenge. A confrontation with habit, identity, and the quiet decisions that had already shaped everything. Once they noticed the pattern, it became impossible to unsee. Every small choice pointed in the same direction. They reviewed their days honestly. How often they reacted instead of decided. How rarely they protected time for thinking. How quickly they said yes to avoid friction. None of it was malicious. None of it was forced. It had simply become normal. The conflict sharpened internally. Breaking the pattern felt risky. The behavior had earned trust. Reliability had become their identity. People counted on their availability. Systems adjusted around their responsiveness. Pulling back now felt like failure instead of correction. They told themselves it was temporary, that once the pressure eased, they would reset. But the pressure never eased. The pattern fed itself. Each accommodation increased dependency. Each delay in setting boundaries made them harder to set later. Exhaustion followed quietly. Not physical burnout, but mental fragmentation. Attention scattered. Work became shallow. Satisfaction faded. They were busy constantly, yet unsure what they were building. The unnoticed decision had converted momentum into noise. Others noticed the symptoms before they did. Shorter patience. Reduced creativity. A sense of always being behind. Advice arrived gently. Take time off. Delegate more. But these solutions treated the outcome, not the cause. The cause was structural. They hadn't chosen this version of the role consciously. They had allowed it to form. And changing it required more than rest. It required interruption. Saying no where yes had become automatic. Creating friction where smoothness had been rewarded. Reclaiming authorship from habit. The fear intensified. What if stepping back damaged trust? What if boundaries were interpreted as disengagement? What if the pattern couldn't be changed at all? But one truth became undeniable. Continuing as they were wasn't neutral. It was active choice. And once that was clear, avoidance stopped being an option. The decision they hadn't noticed was already shaping their future. Now they had to decide whether to keep it or replace it intentionally. And that decision would define everything that followed. The hardest part wasn't changing behavior. It was changing expectation. They began introducing small interruptions, delayed responses, clearer priorities, protected time for work that required depth. Each adjustment felt minor, but the reaction was immediate. Confusion surfaced. Questions followed. The system pushed back against change. This was the real conflict. People had grown comfortable with the old pattern. Reliability had become dependency. And when availability shifted, it forced others to confront their own assumptions. What had once been invisible labor was now visible by its absence. Guilt crept in quickly. They worried about disappointing others, about appearing less committed, about undoing years of trust built on responsiveness. The temptation to revert was strong. Old habits promised relief. New boundaries demand endurance. But something unexpected happened. Some relationships improved. Conversations became clearer. Requests grew more thoughtful. When availability wasn't guaranteed, priorities sharpened. The work that mattered most finally had space to exist. Still, not everything adjusted smoothly. A few expectations resisted change. Some roles were built entirely on the old pattern, and that forced a deeper realization. Not every dependency was healthy. Not every expectation deserved preservation. And correcting that would come with discomfort, no matter how carefully it was done. They faced a choice: restore the old pattern and regain immediate approval, or continue reshaping the role and accept temporary friction. The unnoticed decision had taken years to form. Undoing it wouldn't be instant, but for the first time, the discomfort felt purposeful, not draining, but constructive. Each boundary clarified value. Each pause created intention. The work began feeling owned again instead of inherited. The conflict reached its peak when they accepted a difficult truth. Some people would prefer the old version of them because it was easier, but ease had come at the cost of agency. And agency, once reclaimed, is difficult to surrender again. They were no longer reacting automatically. They were choosing deliberately. And that shift, quiet, uncomfortable, and uncelebrated, was already changing the trajectory of their career. The final question wasn't whether the new pattern would hold. It was whether they were willing to let go of the version of themselves that had made the old one possible. Because sometimes growth requires disappointing others. To stop disappointing yourself. The outcome didn't look like success at first. It looked like balance. The role didn't collapse when the old pattern ended. It clarified. Responsibilities became visible. Priorities surfaced. What had once felt overwhelming revealed its true shape once reaction stopped driving everything. The decision they hadn't noticed was finally replaced by one they owned. They weren't less valuable. They were more deliberate. Work regained depth. Energy stabilized. The constant urgency dissolved into intention. Some expectations fell away. Others matured. And the trust that remained was stronger because it wasn't built on availability alone. Looking back, the most dangerous decisions weren't the bold ones. They were the quiet defaults. The yes given without thought. The habits repeated without reflection. The patterns allowed to harden simply because they felt easier than interruption. Those decisions shape careers just as powerfully as any visible choice. Their story carries a reminder many overlook. If you don't choose your patterns, they choose your future. And noticing them is the first act of authorship. Sometimes the smallest shift in perspective becomes the beginning of a new future. The decision